What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the College Loop Podcast, episode 48 of the College Loop Podcast. And I am again joined by Mr. Harrison Tarr and Daniel Locke. Who wants to go first? Raise your hand. I'm just going to keep mumbling. Harrison Tarr, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well. Oh my gosh, I should have gone second. I've got a little something in my throat. But excited to be talking ball with you guys today. Daniel, help me out here.
Yeah, doing very, very good. It's good to be back. I believe I missed the last show, maybe. I don't know. Time runs together these days. But always good to be here. Always good to be talking ball. And we have a loaded one today, so I can't wait to get right into it.
And Daniel, it was good to see you at good old Russ Chandler Field last night at where I grew up going to watch ball games at Georgia Tech, regardless of that outcome that we'll talk about here in a minute.
Absolutely. Got to hang out with Harrison Tarr for a couple innings. Got to hang out with his lovely mother. What's her name? I'm sorry.
Lisa, and Sam was there. Sam was there. Dad was there as well.
Yes. Billy Nash, a friend of the program.
And our intro voice.
Yes. So the vibes were very, very good. And McNeese last night.
Beautiful ballpark. Let's get this thing on the road. Dylan, always good to talk ball and good to see you, man.
Yeah, so we're going to get started hot and heavy with football because guess what, guys? The transfer portal is opening back up on Saturday. So when you thought we were already busy enough with the recruiting cycle and the early transfer cycle, it might get worse. It might get a little dicey.
Call right now and we'll double your offer.
Do what?
I said, who thought that was possible?
I'm wondering what Tarr said.
Oh, I said call right now and we'll double your offer.
Oh, okay. I don't know what I heard, but that's not what I heard. But yeah, Auburn is in the running for a lot of different positions, starting with, of course, 1A and 1B, looking at their top needs, quarterback and linebacker. And quarterback's going to be our main topic of discussion because transfer portal quarterbacks are a whole lot easier to track than linebackers because every team has 45 linebackers and quarterbacks you can tell who's leaving and who's not.
Has there been an episode of this show where who was going to play quarterback for the Auburn Tigers in 2023 was not at the forefront of our minds?
It's been a long time.
Yeah.
It's been a long time.
You probably have to go back to January.
Yeah, I think February, early February.
I think go back to December.
Yeah, literally. And there's lots of and that, unfortunately, guys, that conversation is not going to die down until we figure out probably until November, to be completely honest with you, until we're approaching the Iron Bowl. Let's jump into the quarterback talk. Dylan, you put out a couple of really, really solid and really, really good articles over at the Auburn Daily, theauburndaily.com. For those of you guys who want to go check out Dylan's full breakdown, he did a really good job of both quarterback battles to look at around the country if you're an Auburn fan, and monitoring the situation, maybe an Old Dominion name that we'll mention. I'm going to start things off here with Chance Nolan. There's been a lot of smoke about him lately and about the potential of him transferring to Auburn. Dylan, I'm going to read out his stats, and then I'm going to let you break down how I know you don't think this is a good fit for Auburn. I would agree with you, but it doesn't sound like a non-zero chance. If nothing else, it will be a veteran presence in the locker room. That doesn't necessarily mean he's coming in to start. That being said, there's a lot of moving parts to that, right? So just a season ago for the Oregon State Beavers, 7 touchdowns to 8 interceptions, 939 yards, QBR of 72.0, and I think we determined that he appeared in how many games, Dylan?
4 or 5. He got injured very early on in the season, I believe.
4 or 5 games for the Beavers. I want to get your thoughts here on the potential of adding Chance Nolan because that's been the most smoke that we've heard and seen, whether that be on the message boards or on Twitter. Lots of discourse there. Open floor to Mr. Tank Talks Football about Chance Nolan.
Yeah, I'm not very high on Chance Nolan. I understand that veteran presence is always necessary for a quarterback room, and you want that for the most part, but you also probably want a little bit better of a quarterback to be a mentor to the younger guys. Speaking of which, Chance Nolan's just not him. Poor decision making. That's the tell by I think he would say 8 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Was that correct? Yeah, that's not good. I've watched football long enough to where basically a 1-to-1 touchdown interception ratio is as bad as
actually
it can get.
Fewer than 1-to-1.
Fewer than 1-to-1. Yeah, it was still worse. It's still bad. It's bad nonetheless. I don't think he's a good fit. I think Oregon State ran more of a pro style, and it looks like I guess Hugh Freeze wants to run more of an RPO type beat, and I don't think Chance Nolan offers the dual threat ability that any other guy can offer. And I look at Chance Nolan, him coming to the Plains, I would still start Holden Jarren or Robbie Ashford over Chance Nolan in a heartbeat.
Sure.
I wouldn't second guess it whatsoever. But a guy I've had my eyes on, nice little segue, So I was scrolling through Twitter. I don't know why this came up my feed.
I think I have his stats up right now.
You have Mr. Hayden Wolf.
I do have Hayden Wolf's stats right in front of me.
So Hayden Wolf announced he was entering the transfer portal, and lo and behold, it appeared on my Twitter feed, and I was like, I remember Old Dominion played Liberty last year, if I remember correctly. Don't ask me why I know they played Old Dominion last year. I just knew. And Hayden Wolf gave that Hugh Freeze number 36 overall defense in the country a little bit of a scare up until the fourth quarter. And I look back at the stats. Dude's a veteran quarterback who doesn't make a lot of mistakes. 2 years of eligibility remaining, and he's got a little bit of dual threat ability with him as well. He doesn't like to run, but he can run. He's more of a power runner at quarterback, which is solid. But yeah, I keep my eye on him. If I call it, the College Loop and the Auburn Daily and the rest of you are not prepared for my ego boost if I called this very early.
No, like it's not already out of control enough.
Daniel, you took the words right out of my mouth. But while you're perked up and ready to lock into some conversation, Daniel, your thoughts on adding a guy, let me just read some numbers to you real quick. Just a year ago, for let's just call a spade, a bad Old Dominion team. I mean, that team reeked.
3-9.
Yeah, 3-9. They reeked. Hayden Wolf posted 2,900 yards, 2,908, 18 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. QBR, it's 45-9. I don't even understand how that shakes out, to be completely honest with you. I think that the ESPN stats must be wrong. I don't buy 40. Yeah, I've got 127.9 in front of me somewhere else. I don't know where it said 45.9. And that ranks 95th amongst quarterbacks. I don't think that's right. It says in 2022 that he was 127.9 QBR. That makes more sense. Your thoughts on adding a guy like that can be that veteran presence, like Dylan said, more of a power runner at quarterback. You can still run that RPO if that's what you're committed to running, and you have that complementary run game. How does this play into Auburn's favor if a guy like Hayden Wolf, maybe not Hayden Wolf specifically, but a guy like him can come onto the Plains and compete and or win that starting job?
Sure. So, just going back to what you said when you first started that question, I'm always ready to lock in. That's been the case for 20 years. But no, I think it's crucial. That's really what we've lacked, or that's what's been missing in the quarterback room the past couple of years is that veteran leadership. Obviously, going into 2021, Bo Nix had 2 years under his belt, but one of those was the COVID season. So you have to wonder how much veteran experience did he really have in 2021?
And his third offensive coordinator.
Sure. Exactly. Like that's another thing that just 3 offensive coordinators in 3 seasons. You can't do that to a kid. You can't do that to a program. And that's why you need a veteran quarterback this year to help lead these guys. Because I think Philip Montgomery is going to be great at Auburn, but that doesn't change the fact that it's his first year working with Robbie, TJ, Holden, and if Auburn does bring in a transfer, him as well. So I feel like having a guy with experience outside of the Plains would just be really, really beneficial.
I couldn't agree more. Dylan, talk to me a little bit. Did you have another candidate you want to talk about, or are we good to talk about battles?
Candidates are all over the place, and bring up candidates, you got to talk about battles. So let's go ahead and swing it over to the battles.
Let's swing it over to battles, and I want to start with a rival. I really do. I think the one that the most people are watching the most is that quarterback battle at the University of Georgia between Brock Vandegrift and come on, I'm dropping
Carson Beck and Gunnar Stockton.
Carson Beck, Gunnar Stockton. I knew Gunnar. I was dropping Carson's name for whatever, and I think Carson's going to wind up being the starter for that team.
Which is for sure.
Which is I
think most Georgia fans would agree that Carson Beck is the starter because he's got he got the second most passes thrown out of any quarterback. Brock rarely saw the field if he did at all.
Sure.
And Gunnar's a young buck, so I think most Georgia fans and I believe most people around the world pretty much know that Carson Beck is going to be taking over the Georgia Bulldogs starting quarterback position.
Yeah, I would agree, but it's a battle to watch for a number of reasons. First things first, before we keep talking about this, about quarterback battles, if we mention any team in the SEC, and we're open to if you've got feedback and you're watching on the YouTube version, or if you're on the Bird app and you want to interact with us and say, hey, I'm watching this battle, we'll talk about that battle. Like there are plenty of quarterback battles around the country. What's up, Bill?
I will say, if one of the Georgia guys does, and we believe Brock Vandegrift is going to be the one that transfers out post spring, just because we all believe Carson Beck's going to get it, and Gunnar Stockton's younger, so he's going to stay.
Sure.
They hit to sit out a year.
That's where I was going with that.
Unless they can probably waiver and it'd be fine.
I don't know. There are stipulations, and there would have to be a serious case. So we'd have to see if the waiver would get cleared. In which case,
I got the case for you. Auburn really needs a quarterback.
You know what? That's
the case.
I don't disagree with that. But I want to talk about Brock Vandegrift for just a second. And this is a guy who I've spent a lot of time watching film on, specifically in the past 5 days, 4 or 5 days. Just because that quarterback battle over in Athens seems to be a little more wide open than I think we may have thought it was going into the spring. But my takeaways, just from film breakdown, big arm, really, really big arm. A little more of a pocket passer, can move when he needs to, and that's okay. He's more mobile than TJ Finley, which I know bars on the floor, but just in comparison, accuracy's not quite where you'd want it to be right now. And that's one of those things okay, so if you go get a Brock Vandegrift, is he better than Holden Geriner? I'm not saying he is. I'm not saying he isn't. But then you start having that conversation because it almost feels like you've got 2 Holden Gerners in this room. And Gerner's probably the more mobile of those two. And then you have the complete opposite skill set of Robbie Ashford. There's you a battle that's a little interesting to me about whether or not that even works. Another battle people got their eyes on, Dylan, I'm going to let you break this one down. There's a certain, I guess, a level of uncertainty in Ohio State right now, and uncertainty about where that's going to go. Your thoughts on that Ohio State quarterback battle?
Yeah, so with CJ Stroud heading to the NFL and hopefully to Charlotte, North Carolina in a couple of weeks, please, David Tepper, please bring CJ Stroud to Carolina.
Just don't mess this one up.
Desperately. I will take CJ Stroud, or I'll take Bryce Young. I know this is Auburn podcast, but I will take Bryce Young or CJ Stroud. Do not draft Will Levis or Anthony Richardson. I will clip.
You don't like putting mayo in your coffee?
I don't. Mayo goes on a ham sandwich.
I hope they draft a kicker.
I'm okay with that. We don't waste draft picks though. And so with CJ Stroud leaving, Ohio State and Ryan Day are kind of left with Devin Brown and Kyle McCord, who don't really have the same experience that we're used to seeing from these Ohio State guys. I mean, Justin Fields had at least 1 year of experience under his belt before he became the starting quarterback. Dwayne Haskins got a lot of minutes. Cardale Jones got a few minutes before they became the starter. You didn't really see a lot of Devin Brown or Kyle McCord, I believe. Yeah, Kyle McCord. You didn't really see a lot of them last year. Ohio State has this weird habit of where they try to run up the score. So they left CJ Stroud in the game for at least 80% of it, and then they run the ball out of the clock. This position battle is a little bit more open because McCord's going into his junior season. Brown's going into a sophomore season. Both highly touted recruits, both 4 stars. This one is probably a bit more under the radar because no one's really talking about the potential of either one of these guys transferring out because, 4-star recruit, you're going to Ohio State, and the guy in front of you has 2 more years of eligibility. You have 3. So, there's no real usage to staying at Ohio State. Quinn Ewers got out of there because he knew he was going to be behind CJ Stroud for another year.
I don't really know if Quinn ever really intended on doing anything other than getting a bag, but that's another side.
Yeah, I'm just going to leave it right there. He wasn't staying at Ohio State for long anyways, even if it wasn't for the money. He wasn't staying there. He was not starting up CJ Stroud in the slightest. No. But yeah, Devin Brown and Kyle McCord kind of play the same. They're both kind of pro styles that can move, which is kind of what Ohio State's been known for the past couple of years, except for maybe Cardale Jones, because he was more of a arm what's the gunslinger. There we go.
There you go.
He was like a Ben Roethlisberger for all of you Steelers fans out there. Corvette, but yeah, the Ohio State's a bit harder to scout because you pretty much play the same. And one of them's going to leave. It's just the way the world works.
All right, Daniel, I've got another quarterback controversy over in Lincoln, Nebraska, that a lot of Auburn fans are paying attention to. So you get Georgia Tech transfer quarterback, my man, Jeff Sims. That kid's got talent. I'm sorry. I'm excited to see him somewhere that can actually scheme a little bit. I do think Nebraska is going to be on the uptick, and he's got the chance to make a bowl game this year. I'd like to think so. Jeff definitely earned it. That being said, he's going to be battling out with Casey Thompson, and that's a name that we're hearing everywhere on every message board ever, guys. What What are your thoughts there? I mean, if Jeff Sims presumptively, if he wins that job, Daniel, I think Casey Thompson's back in the transfer portal, and this will be his third stop, correct?
Yes, he played at Texas and he transferred to Nebraska.
Texas. Yes, Texas, Nebraska, and then theoretically to Auburn. We've heard a lot of smoke there. Is that an upgrade? Is that an upgrade from what Auburn has right now? I think it is.
Yeah. I mean, I would say it is just because it would be so hard for it not to be, if that makes sense. It's just right now the bar is so low that it really does not take much to make me think like, okay, like that's a little better. So yeah, I would say so.
I would tend to agree. Dylan, go ahead.
I was gonna just say Casey Thompson's has the same play style that Hugh Freeze would want in a quarterback. He can run the ball. He will run the ball, and he also, if he's in the right scheme, which Nebraska just wasn't, and they were not since the beginning of the Scott Frost era, really. Casey Thompson can do anything on the field if he has the right scheme, and whether or not Matt Rule has that scheme, bringing in Marcus Satterfield, I believe, is the Satterfield brother that he brought in. One of the Satterfield brothers, the one that was in South Carolina, whichever one was over there, is coming in. And I don't know either if any one of these quarterbacks is a correct scheme fit for that offense. I mean, Jeff Sims has a lot of potential and talent, but yeah, he didn't really fit in at Georgia Tech. And that may
well, there was no scheme at Georgia Tech.
Well, there was no scheme, and there was also no talent at Georgia Tech. So I was getting there, but I think Casey Thompson would be the starter, and I think that you look at it from the standpoint of he has one more year of eligibility, I believe, because I think Casey Thompson's been a name we've been talking about in college football since the beginning of time. Yeah, because he's been there for a while. I can't tell you how many years he's at Texas, but Casey Thompson would be an immediate upgrade. I think you get the nice happy medium between Robbie Ashford's running ability and Holden Gardner's passing ability.
I don't disagree with you, Dylan. I think that might be potentially one of the best fits. Should that be something that can actually get some legs as we enter this portal conversation, if Casey Thompson hits the portal. That being said, we've heard things about him staying in Lincoln, so we really don't know. Other battles to look at: Texas. That's kind of a fun one to look at. The Quinn Ewers, Arch Manning conversation. I actually don't know how the hell you don't start Arch Manning. I don't. I mean, Quinn Ewers was solid when he was healthy. But Arch is just, I mean, he's so one, highly sought after, and two, I mean, I think the kid's got all the talent in the world.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know how you don't start him. UCLA, you mentioned this in your article for the Auburn Daily. Ethan Garber versus Dante Moore. That'll be an interesting one. If you've got another quarterback battle that we haven't talked about, we haven't touched, make sure, like I said, go tweet at us or hit the comments right here on the YouTube, and make sure you like, subscribe, ring the bell while you're at it. And we will touch base with this. We're certainly nowhere near done with the end of the quarterback conversation. That being said, we do need to keep this show on the road and make sure that we get around to the rest of your Auburn sports, because that's what we're here to talk about. Let's talk hardwood for a second here, guys. That official, I've used in air quotes for those of you not watching the YouTube version, in air quotes, the official 23-24 men's basketball roster was published today. Alan Flanagan wasn't on it, and then he was on it. So a lot of people talking about whether or not Flan returns. Guys, I'm just going to go ahead and say this, and I'll get both of your thoughts. I'm going to start with Daniel here, actually. I don't really think that that's the case. I still don't think that Alan Flanagan's on this roster. Jalen Williams wasn't on it, and then he was on it. I do think Jalen Williams is on this roster. I think this might have been a little element of trying to update the website, to be completely honest with you. Daniel, do you really think Alan Flanagan will be back in 23-24?
Yeah.
Do you actually?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think there's a spot for him. I don't think I'm never going to call someone not smart, but I think he's aware enough to know that he's not NBA ready at this point.
Okay.
And who in their right mind would want to play basketball in Oxford, Mississippi? So I feel like there's just not really – I feel like it's just the best option for him to just kind of stay put and ride it out another year.
Interesting. I mean, and there's certainly that school of thought. Dylan, I don't know if you're on my side here. I was a little surprised to see Flanagan's name still on this roster. You're taking.
Oh, I'm always on your side, Harrison.
No, I didn't say you were against me here. I have different schools of thought. That's all.
I mean, I could either take it or leave it. I think if he comes back, I don't think he's a starter because I think they're more talented.
No.
They're way more talented threes in the portal as we speak. One of them being, I believe, Julian Phillips from Tennessee.
Well, that's not. He's not in the portal yet.
He's not. I thought. Never mind. Well, never mind. But soon there will be.
There allegedly might be.
There allegedly might be a better three coming out of Knoxville, Tennessee. Just hearing a lot of smoke.
That may or may not have wanted to be an Auburn Tiger in the first place.
But yeah, I could take it or leave it. I think if he stays, he won't be the starter, and if he leaves, I still don't think he'll be NBA ready.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, and we'll take a look there. And Daniel, to your point, this might just be the best place for Alan Flanagan to develop. And who knows, guys, maybe a year without his dad there, maybe that's good. I mean, sometimes like getting away, not being coached by your dad, sometimes you can progress as an individual and as a player and not rely as heavily. I'm not saying that Wes being here was bad for him. I'm just saying, who knows? Maybe that's the remedy, and maybe you see a different version of Alan Flanagan in 23 to 24, and he can play a little more freely. That maybe that's it. I'm not reading into it. I don't know anything you guys don't know about that situation, but I don't know. I venture to assume that it may not hurt. Other side of the hardwood. I'm sorry, Daniel. Go ahead.
I was just gonna make a little joke. My batting average saw a severe uptick when my dad was no longer coaching my little league teams. So a
lot of people get that.
To your point, yeah.
A lot of people get that. So interesting to keep an eye on. Like I said, other side of the hardwood. Women's basketball picked up another commit. I've seen no names. Have you guys seen names?
No. That's why I worded it like that. All I got was another Eagle has landed, and I was like, okay, where?
Okay. Regardless, you heard it on the college loop when this roster started to, I use air quotes again, implode. Coach J she do be recruiting. She really do. And this is why we're not worried about the roster reconstruction. Matter of fact, I think this team can be just as good as they were this past year. Maybe a half step back, but I think that ultimately this is in the right direction. My guess is this is a 3 or a 4. That would be my educated guess. Your guard room is pretty much solid.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing this is a 3 or a 4, especially when you've got 2 young 5s. If you go grab a veteran 5, that's great. I think that's okay too. That makes a ton of sense. So we'll know here by the time we record on the Sunday show what Eagle has landed within the Auburn women's basketball program. Which, by the way, that's an awesome little slogan. Every time that you land a recruit, that's pretty cool. Daniel, while we're talking women's athletics, before we get over to Diamond Sports, Derrian Gobourne is headed to the biggest stage in women's college gymnastics this weekend. Talk to me about her run to the NCAA championships here as an individual in floor and why she's got a shot, and just give us a breakdown. Also, let people know where they can watch it if you've got that information in front of you.
I do not have that information in front of me. So yeah, it's huge. Obviously, an Auburn season as a team didn't go as expected, losing in the first round of the NCAA tournament. But Derrian is still Derrian, and she got invited to nationals to compete as an individual on floor. Definitely, probably Auburn's best individual event on the whole team is Derrian on floor. It's special.
She'll also be in the semifinal number 1, her first one that'll be on ESPN2 on Thursday, April 13th at 9 p.m. Eastern time. Sorry, continue.
No, you're good. Thank you.
Yep.
It'll take place at Dickies Arena in Fort Worth, Texas.
Home of the National Rodeo.
Really?
Yes.
Huh.
One of the national
in RG Stadium.
You would think. The biggest rodeo in America is actually in Cheyenne, Wyoming. Don't ask me why I know. I've actually been. Very, very random fact.
Well, the college loop will be road tripping out to Cheyenne, Wyoming relatively soon.
I'm down. Don't tempt me with a good time.
Population of Cheyenne, Wyoming, 0. After we get there, 3.
Continue, Daniel. I'm sorry to cut you off about Derrian.
No, you're good. I brought that upon myself. Yeah. Basically, all I really have to say is I'm excited to watch her get it done.
And I think she's got a real shot, guys. I mean, if she hits, I mean that routine is ridiculous, and Derrian is so her. As Dylan, I said it last show, I'm gonna say it again this show. Dylan, for those of you not watching the stream, the YouTube stream, Dylan just did the crown that she does. God Save the Queen. Very excited. Best of luck to Derrian Gobourne, and excited to see where her talents land this evening at 8 p.m. Central Time. For those of you, most of you guys watching in Central Time Zone, hello to our Eastern and Mountain Time friends and our West Coast friends. Wishing you guys the best. Our West Coast friends, you guys get this long before your drive time to work, so congratulations. Uh, that's always exciting. Let's talk diamond sports, guys. And we're going to start with baseball, and we'll work over to softball. Daniel and I were both on site last night for Georgia Tech hosting Auburn, home and home that I think should live for the rest of forever. Auburn and Tech figured out play again in football. Let's do it. Let's bring back the Rec Tech parades. It's fun. I wish I would have been around for it because my dad hated Auburn for a very, very long time until I went to Auburn. Then his money went to Auburn. He decided he didn't hate Auburn anymore. So that was super fun. I say that my dad never really actually cared about Auburn. He just hates Georgia. That being said, I mean, can you blame the guy? But guys, I mean, where do I start with this disappointing walk-off grand salami in the bottom of the 10th? First off, Dylan said it on the show on Tuesday. Buckle up for a 12-inning game. It was only 10. All right, it was only 10. Nobody wanted to. Yeah. Oh, I when I went back and re-listened to the show, like I listened because I didn't listen to the Diamond Sports portion earlier in the week. I got a call from work and had to do some other stuff. I was re-listening to it earlier today. I was like, oh my god, Dylan literally said buckle up for next innings game because nobody wanted to win. And yeah, no, that's pretty much what happened.
I know things,
guys. Daniel, this pitching staff is horrific. I mean, it is horrible.
Yeah. I don't really know where they turn at this point. First of all, I'll just start by saying, and what little I know about the history between Auburn and Georgia Tech, I love it. It would be so awesome if the Auburn student body pulled up to these games in their pajamas like they did back in the day. That would be electric.
Bring it back.
Bring it back. Don't put butter on the train tracks. That's a little unsafe. But yeah, it's fun. It's good history, and I'm all about it. But the game, yeah, Auburn do that. Or where it starts for me is the top of the first inning when Auburn scores a run, and then they have, I think they loaded up the bases and stranded 3.
Yeah,
that's when I knew, like, oh boy.
Oh, here we go again.
A ton of stranded runners. Stranded runners is this team's biggest weakness, other than pitching. Is I would be really curious to know, and I'm sure I can find this out. I want to know what Auburn's batting average is when they have runners in scoring position.
It's got to be low.
It can't be good.
There's a lot of scoring from first too. Like a lot of guys score from first. And here's the crazy thing, fellas. Dylan, I read a stat yesterday after the Auburn loss at Georgia Tech. And for those of you who can hear the frustration in my voice, I'm really not even trying to show my bias too much. It's really just infuriating. This team is 10-13. 10-13 in games that they score 8 runs. 8 runs. And you're winning fewer than 50% of those games? What the hell are we doing? I'm at a loss. And like I said, I've said this time and time again, I'm not pointing fingers at Butch. I'm really not even pointing fingers at these guys. I don't know that there's any kind of Harry Potter sorcery that you could come up with here that could fix this. The offense, to Daniel's credit, I mean, you got to capitalize runners in scoring position, but the offense in large guys has not been the problem. You're scoring enough to win games. You're scoring enough to be competitive in the ACC and the SEC, but especially when I was saying ACC, you're competitive enough to be taking care of these ACC opponents. You're competitive enough to be winning SEC series. And your bullpen's coming in and finding new ways every single game to blow it. And it is miraculous to me. Dylan, at what point, and you hinted at it on the Tuesday show, at what point do you start accepting fate and say, all right, this is a year to get guys experience. This is a year that you're just going to have to accept the fact that this is essentially live batting practice, and that this group very well may not make it to Birmingham, to Hoover. When do you get there? And if you lose this weekend, is that it?
Check my watch. Yeah, now is when you start to realize that. So you go down 6-1 at the beginning of at the end of the 4th, and then you somehow come back and tie it at 8. Like you said, the batting's not the problem. But the thing is, Auburn gave up 6 runs in the first 4. And you got to look at it from the pitching. I mean, I can't we've talked about it. Me and talked about it a little bit. You can't put it all on Will Cannon. He was not supposed to play the extra inning.
Listen, Will Cannon came in, and I know people are going to dog on him for that grand slam. Will Cannon in the bottom of the ninth. You know what the nickname for Tyler Matzik, for you Braves fans that are listening, that's the kind of stuff that we saw with Will Cannon. That guy walked in pushing a wheelbarrow.
Yeah, and I mean, you start off with Chase also. He doesn't have it. He doesn't have it in him.
He's got the yips.
He just and it's bad. It's a bad case because he gave up 6 runs and you got to take that 4 walks, 6 runs, and only got 3 strikeouts in 3 innings. That's terrible. It's bad. It's horrendous. Even more synonyms coming in soon. You just look at it. Your best pitcher has been out for 2 months at this point, 3 months, working on 3.
And to Joe's credit, that's not his fault.
It's not. He's injured. Joe goes just a no-go for the rest of the season is what we're going to just go with.
Shut him down.
Yeah, he's not coming back. And at this point, there's no point in him coming back. This Auburn team wasn't supposed to be another Omaha team. We were hoping they would. They weren't. They're not going to be because this team has just been horrendously bad. And there's really nothing that they can do about it besides get everyone experience. I mean, we talked about all the pitchers that have been struggling. Chase Allsup's on the front runner of that. A lot of guys, it's not their fault at times. They just don't have the experience to be pitching at the SEC level. And you go into next year and, maybe that changes. But right now, I mean, I don't want to say season's done and chalk it, but I mean, it's getting real close. It's getting real close to just chalking it.
Bleak at best. And they're headed to Tuscaloosa, Alabama this weekend to play a very good Alabama team, and you're in your biggest rival. And there's a compounding. I think that latter factor actually probably plays to your advantage because you don't want to lose. But it's one of those things where Greg Olson came on our show and said, in order to be successful in the SEC, you got to be able to learn how to get hit. And I think a lot of these guys in this bullpen just need to learn how to get hit. John can't do it on his own. Connor Copeland showed streaks of good, streaks of bad. We talked time and time again about our poor boy Drew Nelson, in the situations he's getting stuck in, and at some point, Cannon came in did well last night for an inning, and then it was apparent that we're either going to get him, he's either going to get us through the 10th, or we're going to lose this game, and sometimes you got to do that. Sometimes you have to. It's one of those things. So it'll be interesting to see how this goes down the stretch. That first game against Alabama will be tomorrow night, 6 p.m. That'll be on SEC Network. So make sure to check that one out and watch the guys. If Auburn can get out of Tuscaloosa with a win this weekend, 1 out of 3, I think that a lot of Auburn fans will be over the moon. Flipping over to the other side of the diamond, Dylan Larck has put on his Auburn softball hat, and the vibes are now boosted back through the roof. Auburn took care of business over Troy, in-state rival. We talked about a solid little softball team and a team that Auburn needed to take seriously in midweek. Talk to me, Dylan. Tell me the good, tell me the bad, tell me the ugly.
All right, the bad started in the first and second inning when Maddie Penta gave up, I believe, 2 home runs, or just a home run, a 2-run home run. There we go. 1 run, 2 home run, and then she just got back to the mound in, I believe, the 3rd inning, and she locked it down. Maddie did not give up a single run through the rest of her time on the mound, and she struck out, I believe, 11 or 12 batters in a row. So glorious pitching on at least one Auburn team's mound. But again, I ask, can Maddie Penta throw a baseball?
People are asking. People
are asking because you know what? Let her do it. What's it going to hurt? You're going to lose a couple more games? No. Not to sound like Hal Baird there, but
Jesus.
But overall, a great overall game. Troy's not a team to be taken lightly. And, I mean, the bats were there. Auburn got 7 hits, got 7 runs. Can't be too upset about it. I don't think they stranded too many runners on base. And overall, I mean, KK McCrary, she went off. I think she had 3 or 4 RBI this game. I'm going to go find that real quick. She had, that's Troy, 3 RBI. So she accounted for almost half of Auburn's runs based on her hits.
And they will be taking on number 13 team in the country in LSU at Jane B. Moore this weekend. Jane B. Moore, Auburn is 21-2 at home this year. So a good venue and a potentially winnable series against LSU, which will put you in really good standing going into the postseason. Before we talk a little bit of Equestrian, before we get out of here, I did forget to mention during our baseball segment, Dylan, former Auburn alumnus Edouard Julian of the Minnesota Twins made his MLB debut today, going 0 for 1 with a walk, and that's, you know what, you're an MLB debut, and sometimes that'll happen. He played great in the World Baseball Classic, so congratulations to him. Before we get,
Tarr's internet just died. So before, I don't know what he's going to say, but we're going to go ahead and get to Equestrian as his internet gets back. They have natties tomorrow. So Auburn, if you go and look, they have won, we talked 6 natties since 06, and they are looking to get number 7. And Auburn has been on a tear this season, getting SEC Coach of the Year and several Riders of the Year. And Tarr is back. So what's going on, buddy?
I have no idea what happened, but you were talking about several SEC Riders of the Year. Go ahead.
Auburn, again, is really good at Equestrian. So, you know what? Make it natty number 7.
Best of luck to Auburn Equestrian this weekend. That being said, best of luck to our Auburn Equestrian team, as we've mentioned a couple of times. I don't really know where this is going to fit in because we ran out of time there for a second, Dylan. So a little dancey dance, a little choppy chop here and there. We rock, we roll, we move. I'm going to go and plug Daniel's information. He had to step away from his laptop for the remainder of the evening, and he's got some school to tend to, so academics come first. Big academics guys here at the College Loop. He's at Daniel J. Locke on Twitter. If you guys want to go check him out, make sure you go let him know that he's up next, or actually Dylan's up next, but coming up soon for the TikTok dance milestone on YouTube. If you guys want to check out my terrible TikTok dancing, that's all over our socials at this point. So that was wild. Thank you guys so much for subscribing. We're at 100 subs. Very, very excited to be there. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you like, subscribe, and ring the bell. You can check out Daniel's written work at, let me think, every Auburn student media outlet. So that's the Auburn Plainsman, Eagle Eye TV, WEGL 91.1, also known as Weagle. You can also check him out at the Auburn Wire. There it is, the Auburn Wire, and sometimes when I'm absent or AWOL, the Auburn Daily. I'm Harrison Tarr at by Harrison Tarr on the Bird app. You can check out all my written work on the Auburn Daily, theauburndaily.com. You can check them out on Twitter, Facebook, the whole 9 yards. You can also check them out on YouTube and listen to more of my podcasting work, as long as with Dylan's podcasting work, which he'll tell you about here in a moment, on the Auburn Daily Show. That's every Wednesday with Dylan Larck, every Friday with the legendary Lindsey Crosby. Got a lot of fun stuff coming up over that way. And so, dude, we are loaded over at the Auburn Daily. We got some dogs. Yeah. Having a ton of fun with that. The rest of my work's right here on the College Loop every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. Dylan, let everybody know where they can find your stuff, support you, love you, and then let's get out of here, my man.
All right. Well, my name is Dylan Larck, at your boy the Tank on Twitter. It's at YABOI the Tank. If you need to know how to spell it, it's gonna be right below me, or right there, right, or right there,
somewhere.
Noise is made. And catch me on the Auburn Daily Show every Monday with Lance Daw and Wednesday with Harrison Tarr, where we are just going to talk about the transfer portal for the rest of time, or at least until this transfer portal window ends.
Portals and quarterbacks, that's all we know.
Portals and quarterbacks, all we talk about, and then we try to sprinkle in basketball just because.
The porthole!
And also catch my writing work. There we go. I'm still not used to saying it. On auburndaily.com, where I have 2 articles up again about the quarterbacks and transfers. So yeah.
Shocker.
Eat, sleep, and breathe transfer portal. And College Loop every Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. Again, as Tarr said, like, comment, and subscribe to the page. If you get us to 300, Daniel has to do a TikTok dance. If you get to 500, we'll all do one. And go follow us, everywhere. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, and, of course, YouTube. Social medias, you got us on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook if you want to catch some of our really cool graphics that I make. And, sadly, you won't find us on MySpace whatsoever. It's sad. We'll look into it. If y'all really want it, we'll make one. But not yet.
You can't connect with us on LinkedIn yet either, unfortunately.
Yeah, sadly. We are not connecting on LinkedIn quite yet. And with that, and all that being said, go follow us, like the video, tell us who you want Auburn to go get from the transfer portal, or are you okay with leaving Holden Jarrett and Robbie Ashford in the backfield? And all that being said, in the College Loop Podcast.